Thune, and then it would be Senator Young and Senator Cortez Masto. Senator Thune.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know this ground's been covered a little bit already with Senator Grassley, but I am very interested in the IRS's plan, annual plan, on how they're going to deploy the $80 billion in mandatory funding that you all have received. He and I have a bill we've introduced, the IRS Funding Accountability Act, among other things. It would require the IRS to submit to Congress a detailed spending plan annually, and it seems to me at least that keeping Congress informed of IRS progress and any changes in that plan makes sense regardless of the status of our bill. I know you've been asked this, but I would like to just press on it a little bit if I might, and that is, if confirmed, will you direct the IRS to update its spending plan annually for Congress to review? $80 billion is 6 times your annual budget. We're talking about 87,000 new employees, and so would you commit to, will you direct the IRS to update its spending plan annually?
Senator, I would say it's so important that the plan we have is transparent, is updated, is clear to you and the American people. Just sitting here, I think an annual update is reasonable. I do want to talk with the IRS employees and the Treasury Department once I become a federal employee, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed, to confirm my understanding. But the general principle of updated plans annually resonates with me.
So thank you, and I hope that you will be able to make a more definitive commitment after consultation. So in this new funding, $46 billion of it goes toward enforcement, and only 4% toward helping with the filing claims of ordinary tax filers. And to me, it seems like the record, at least the current record, recent record of the IRS, which includes 10 million unprocessed tax returns and a 13% phone call pickup rate in 2022, that improving taxpayer services ought to be the #1 priority. Now, obviously, the allocation of funding doesn't suggest that. When you've only gotten, when you have 46% allocated to enforcement and audits and going after people, only 4% or $3.2 billion for taxpayer service. So again, in terms of priorities, as you look at this issue, what will be the higher priority for you when it comes to administering the IRS funding allocation? Better customer service to taxpayers or increasing the number of audits on Americans?
It'll be a dual priority, Senator, equally focused on improving taxpayer service, in particular for working families and small businesses. And side by side with that will be a commitment to improve the IRS's capacity to unpack complex returns, which is something I understand today they lack that capacity.
Well, I hope that you will, that the agency will double down when it comes to just dealing with prioritizing taxpayer services. I mean, that data, those numbers are just non-defensible, inexcusable, and needs to be fixed. Let me just ask, and maybe this has been asked already as well, but the data breach going back to 2021, the ProPublica data breach, there still hasn't been any, accountability on the leak or the breach of private taxpayer information. And I know you're going to punt that to the Justice Department, but do you think it's acceptable that here we are 2 years later and there still isn't any information about what happened there, who the leaker was, and I'm just, if confirmed, would you take steps to ensure that that kind of confidential taxpayer information, one, that the breach is, there's accountability there, and two, that it doesn't happen again?
Senators, I think about the nuts and bolts of tax administration. Data security is a top priority. I don't know how to build trust with the public when there's a sense that there's risk, material risk of unauthorized disclosures. What gives me some degree of comfort, you mentioned the Justice Department, but what gives me some degree of comfort is the Taxpayer Inspector General is extraordinarily important role whenever there's a potential breach to understand the root cause. So one of the things that I will absolutely do is work with the Inspector General to understand what do they see as the risks and any specific action or activity that's taken place. Have they investigated? What are the root causes? Are there corrective actions? Because if there are, we will make them.
Okay, and I just, again, would reiterate that it would help enormously if there would be accountability for those that have already happened. We don't have that yet for the one that happened in 2021. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good.